All right, and we actually are live. So we'll just have to listen to this awesome music for a couple of minutes. Is it okay?
That's fine.
Cool. Cool, cool, cool.
So good.
I always used to listen to this music when I was studying or reading or writing or something like that. So it brings
Oh yeah,
like a lot of a lot of. I feel like sitting and writing a report or something.
there you go. It's perfect. All right, just want to make sure that it's on. I hope it's all connected, because sometimes it doesn't get all the connections going. Yeah, I gotta figure out how to get better music. This is not really excellent.
It's totally the music for like some very low key, beautiful 2D platform game where
It's
you're just
true.
like a character running around and checking
It's
stuff
true.
out.
It's true. It's true. All right. Okay. All right. We're on LinkedIn, and we got some people. Let me make sure it's going on here. Okay. All right. Okay. We got some people on LinkedIn. Make sure that it's actually working. Nice. Okay. All right, and it's working on here as well. I don't know why it's not connecting the chat, but oh well. All right, cool. All right, shall we get started? Should I switch off this awesome music? All right, fantastic. So, welcome everyone to the second worldwide almost premiere event of Chaospilot Live. So, this live stream series is all about exploring the innovative and exciting world of Chaospilot, which is an educational institution that for the past 30 years has been transforming the way that we think about leadership, learning, and doing. My name is Federico. I'll be your host, and I'm a team leader here at Chaospilot. And I am thrilled to be joined by this awesome group of alumni who will be sharing their insight and experiences with us today. We know that education is something that touches all of our lives, and we believe that everyone should have the opportunity to explore new ideas, learn new skill, and create a positive change in the world. And that's why I'm so excited to be bringing you this series, which is designed to be accessible and inclusive for everyone, whether you're a prospective student, a current student, or somebody that is just curious or interested in the future and the future of education. So in this episode, we'll be exploring the impact of Chaospilot on its alumni, hopefully positive, and the path they've taken since graduating. And they will also share how their time here at KP has influenced their personal and professional growth, and maybe what advice they have for current and future students. So whether you're a Chaospilot alum yourself or simply curious about the school's impact, we hope this is something that is interesting for you. And so, no matter where you're from or no matter who you are, we're happy that you're excited that you're joining us today. And let's dive in. Yeah, sounds good. All right. So maybe we can just get started. And I don't know, shall we just popcorn? Whomever wants to start can start, or maybe I can pick. Maybe we can go with you, Ellen, if
Yes,
you're up for it.
sure.
You can just share with us like a little bit about you and where you are and what you're doing right now.
Mm. So my name is Ellen. I'm currently sitting in a room in a very snowy Stockholm, Sweden. I graduated from the Kaospilot 2019 with some of the people in this virtual room. I'm currently working at a non-for-profit organization called Matte Centrum, and an English version of that is Math Center, Center of Math. And what we do is that we provide tutoring support for children to grow in their own math journey outside of school. So I am the general secretary of the organization, and it's a volunteer-based organization, and it's quite big. So we exist in 30 different cities, both digital as well. So we run 5 different sites with all free tutoring support, chat, video, and material. So that's what I'm currently doing, but I have a different, my journey to where I am is a bit different, or like different. It has been a journey, and maybe we'll touch upon that, but that's just short who I am and where I am right now. I can't hear you now.
See, that's exactly what I was talking about. I always forget to
You
unmute
did it.
myself. So
Yeah,
I know, all the time. Every single time. I need to have like one of those clickers.
exactly.
I was saying, since it sounds like it has been quite an interesting journey, would you like to share a little bit more about that?
Yeah, sure. So before the whole reason why I applied for the Kaospilot was I was working as a chef, culinary. So I was working for around 7 years, very intensely, both competing as well in arts of culinary arts. And I was really intrigued by the whole system of food, like how the chain was. And then I applied for the Kaospilot as I thought it was the most excellent choice, applying both very practical and also the systemic thinking. And then being at the Kaospilot, I realized the essence of what I'm really intrigued or like curious about and find very meaningful is education and the aspect of learning. So I went into that during the Kaospilot a lot, doing a lot of projects regarding that. And then, yeah, graduating, this was something I have continued doing, learning. Now it's regarding math, and I have not a background in math, but now I've really have had the chance to explore the language of it, the language of nature. So it's a whole new world for me, and I'm so grateful to be part of it at the moment. So yeah.
Amazing. Thank
Mm.
you. Maybe we can move from Sweden to Mexico. And Carmen, do you want to share a little bit about you and what you're up to nowadays?
Sounds good. So it's 7 a.m. I think now. We're in Mexico City, and I think after 3 years here, I'm still surprised that I'm living here. But I graduated as Ellen now nearly 4 years ago, right? 3.5, 3, something like that. I work as a freelancer mostly. I do a mix between teaching, consulting, and personal accompaniment work. So I basically do, in one language, I do facilitation on all scales, or on different scales and in different realms, meaning in a one-on-one context, facilitate learning, life changes, like a kind of life coaching. To groups and more learning as I'm teaching at the university here outside of Mexico City. and I teach facilitation. But in the center of my work, I think, is the question on how to weave the somehow hidden web of community or of people and of life. So I think how to weave the threads of life in a way that makes most sense for us individually or as groups. So I understand myself. Yeah. So I'm a life coach. I'm a teacher at the university, and I do consulting work for small companies, generally with the language of facilitation, but it's more like a general group process, team processes, in a team processes. And I do that here in Mexico. And fortunately, I spoke Spanish since before Kaospilot, and part of our education we were in Barcelona. So, like, I think sometimes people ask me, it's like 17 years that this is my second language. So it's like home here. And I think it's a very, very interesting context. No one knows Kaospilot, obviously, apart from the university I'm working in. But yeah, there's a lot of opportunities and open-mindedness.
Nice.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. And I don't know if you saw, but there was Alexandra that just walked by and said to say hi. So hi from Alexandra.
Thank you.
Cool. Thank you, Carmen. And Kai, maybe you want to say something about you too?
Yes,
Oh,
indeed.
I'm not the only one that is challenged with a mute
Oh
button.
no, it was
No?
it was the chat cheating me. Doesn't count.
Okay.
Yeah, back to Scandinavia here from Copenhagen. Yeah, my name is Kai, and I'm working with everything climate action related, and how it's being sort of put into the world right now for me is our final project at the Kaospilot, together with my classmate Emil. We started a little company that's called Circa CPH, where we do climate action consulting. And the people that we work with the people that we started working with is very much public organizations, because we believe a lot in the potential for public organizations to really pick up climate action and push it forward, because they are intrinsically have values that try to support humans. And since then, we've broadened up a bit, working a lot with publicly supported organizations, and now going into also cross EU international projects on a lot of education and strategic work, systemic work, multi-stakeholder projects regarding climate action. Yes, that's at least sort of what I do for work. Also, we just bought a house, so that's the next big life project that I'm diving into here in Copenhagen.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
And then, how about you, sir?
Yeah. Hey guys. My name is Søren, and I graduated with Ellen and Carmen in 2019. What I do now, right now I'm sitting in 300 kilometers north of Nuuk in Greenland, and what I do here is I work in in some languages it's called an orphanage, but it's in general an institution for kids and young people under the age of 18 who has a lot of different behavioral disorders. So basically, the work we do here is social work for kids who comes from very a big variety of difficult life challenges with parents who are alcoholics or abusive. So these kids have been in the foster care system for a long time, and right now we have 12 kids in the age between 13 and 18 living here full time. And I've been working here for 2.5 years now, and I've just entered a leadership position as it's called a sous chef here. So I'm I'm not the principal, but I am the what do you call that, middle leader somehow. My
Congrats.
job has shifted from being a social worker to now administrating the people who work here, as well as the kids and communications with the social system here. So the kids we have here are kids who can't live anywhere else because they have some pretty heavy challenges in life. And what our mission here is basically just trying to make them as what do you call that? As independent as we possibly can. So when they are 18, they have a choice that they can be here for longer, or they are, because they are then adults, can choose to live another place where we try to set up a support system for them as well. So yeah, that's what what I do here.
Sounds cool. Thank you. Thank you so much. Then I would love to hear a little bit more, and maybe Helen, you already touched a little bit upon that, right? But like, what has been the journey through the 3-year education, and has that helped you like understand which direction to go, or like sharpen some skills, or what has been the influence for you of going through Kaospilot?
It's a grand question. I wonder where to
It is.
start. I think during the Kaospilot you get to reflect a lot about what is it that you find valuable enough to spend time on, and that you really would like to investigate further. You might come from that you find that it's unfair, or that you really, really like something, or that you really, really enjoy something. And I think repeating that question almost every day at the Kaospilot gives you a great standing point leaving the school, because you have so much maybe, and I wouldn't say that I was realizing this during the time being at the Kaospilot, but definitely now, and definitely leaving the Kaospilot, I already had it figured out, like the big why. Then there's so many different things to actually tap into, and I think that's also something that you get to navigate in your own principles a lot. Like, what are my criterias for a good working day, for a good working life, for a good private life? And then you start to like tap out to different settings or workplaces that you feel are reflecting those principles and criterias. So I think that, yeah, maybe not really answering your question, but
No, what I can understand is like how to tap and how to find shapes and direction within all these levels, right? And how can align those. And maybe if I can ask you a question around that, is also like, how has been for you the transition from being a student to stepping into the work or professional field, right?
The great thing about the Kaospilot is that you get to practice a lot during your time. I mean, there's so many different projects and different scenarios that you are working with hands-on. And I think it's great, because then you already, your first year, you start establishing a network in professional settings. So leaving the Kaospilot, the gap was quite small, actually. So I would say the Kaospilot is are really fostering a professional space, but then yet again it's a school, and you're in a very, very eager learning setting. So you you still practice, but so there is a difference when it's like you get a salary, you should have a real deadline. Being at the Kaospilot is still the practice and the big learning aspect of it all. But I think the gap is quite small. So.
Amazing. Thank you so much. And maybe we can shift the order a little bit. I'll ask Kai, is that all right? And how's it been for you to like go through education? Is it something that, how does support you in, as you were saying, like finding maybe a sense of direction or some skills, knowledge, experience, whatever it is?
I think one thing that I thought about when Ellen was speaking was also Kaospilot is a school where you very much get what you put into it yourself. So if one expects to get something without investing yourself into it, I think this is not the place to be. So I think in that sense, Kaospilot for me has been a practice in self-reflection, and that's very much what I'm taking with me from it, and also the respect for, I guess, diversity. Also, since the school is built so much on having people coming from very different backgrounds, experiences, but having the criteria that you have something to build upon, I think it makes a great platform to meet others that you wouldn't necessarily get really close to in the outside world. And I think that practice in itself has been super valuable for me in transitioning from a school into the real world where people are just different, and having a respect for diversity in any way possible. At least having that attitude towards it, that being open towards it, I think. Yeah, so I think that has developed me a lot, and in terms of like practice, work ethics and stuff like that or attitude towards work is again, in my opinion, not what Kaospilot is teaching me that much. It's what you put into it, and that's also what I'm taking away from it. You can do anything on any level you want to. It just takes energy, effort, in any way that you want to put into it, and somehow it comes back to you. You can call it karma if you want to.
Thank you. Oh, and there's William now walking by. Maybe Carmen, do you want to share a bit of the same?
Yes, while I was listening, I think the thought I had, so in my final graduation project, I dove into the field of education a lot. And I think one of the things that, when was it? I was just recently talking about Kaospilot. And I think when I was trying to explain, so in education in general, we most of the times understand as a place that gives us tool and knowledge on a specific field. But that is actually inaccurate for most educations, because it's actually a process of socialization. So it socializes you, it primes you to see the world in a particular way. So if you're an architect and you go through a building, you look at it very different than if you're a social worker, or if you're managing a nonprofit, or if you look at it from the perspective of climate. So I think if I would have to say how the education has mostly impacted me is the way in which I look at the world. So like, through what lenses am I accustomed to look at every situation based on having been practicing Kaospilot perspectives onto the world? And I think, so while I was listening, I made a little list and in my little corner up here. And I think one of the things is that there's a perspective of being focused on potential all the time. I think it's like the idea of Kaospilot that you see the system not as a problem, but as you're looking for the small little places to get in. Like it is in some ways an activist school, but it's the idea of how can you be sufficiently adapted so you can change the system from the inside. So I think one of the perspectives is whenever I see something, a problem, a challenge, a situation at work, a conversation, a potential business partner, my mind always looks for potential. So it looks for potential open doors, potential alignments. So I think possibility perspective, what's possible here. And then the other perspective is how can I facilitate and increase whatever potentialities in the room. So I think most Kaospilots that I see, including myself, we enter into not so useful professional conversations, and then just ask little hidden questions from the left and the right, and then I see how a conversation becomes more rich. So I think, so I think that's the second perspective, like a perspective of process. So constantly asking myself, when in whatever conversation I'm in, if I'm in a conversation with my mom, in a conversation with the landlords, if I do stakeholder management of our neighbors, because politically sometimes that's necessary, or whether I'm in the university having an older colleague that I'm leading in a patriarchate system, you know, wherever I am, I think there's a perspective in me that asks myself, where am I in a process? Like, is this a beginning? Does this need a closing? Does this need a follow-up? Do I have to? So in some ways, there's a possibility to always zoom out and see a bigger process. And I think that's part of the process and training that Kaospilot gives you, to be able to be in something, but constantly zoom out and be like, okay, where on a map of process are we? So I think that's the second, apart from potential, I think that's the second big leg. And then I think the third thing, and that's I'm preaching to my students, that the students I'm teaching are younger. They're like between 18 and 21, 19, 17. And they say they hate working together because it's so difficult. And I would look at them with like a bright smile and be like, exactly. And everyone in the world has figured that out, that working together is something we all strive for. And when we're put into it, we all just know all the memories and how we've hated it in our school time and work projects, that, you know, the other one didn't work as much as I did the hand it myself. I didn't like the others. They were making fun of me. Whatever it is, social contexts are incredibly complicated, and the experiences we generally get from is in school. That doesn't mean they're particularly positive. So I think Kaospilot provides a different perspective on how you can own processes in groups and contribute in these processes so that you find them rich and valuable. So like how to do things together. And I think if I look at, for example, the work you're doing, Kai, I think the idea of not doing things together in the field of climate is just impossible. If you think about growth and societal change, it's impossible. You know, so I think the way of working together, I think, is one of the third areas. And then I have just the fourth area. Like I have 7, obviously, but I'm like, I just
go
can't
for it. Oh, all right. Well, I don't know. Let's see.
I think there's an understanding that in order to do meaningful work, one needs to include the totality of self, which means there is a focus on personal growth that doesn't just do the dualism of work-life, but actually understands the full circle. So that is not like I have work here and life here, but life expresses itself through all different ways, and I express myself through all different ways, and how are they integrated and forming together a totality. So, you know, in some languages, you could say it's kind of a soulful training, like you really have a connection from essence to, you know, workout routine, and how that connects to professional performance. But I think the spectrum that is considered part of education is a lot more broad than in other educations that are more specific of what they want to train you in and what is your responsibility. And I think to understand the full spectrum as what is necessary for a good project, a good work, which is the knowing of the why, and then the how, and then the practice of doing it. I think that is actually an ability that could reduce quite drastically, and I have seen it reducing for myself quite drastically, exhaustion, potential for burnout, stress, because it's not the idea of that life and work, they're more integrated. And I think that is actually something one needs to train, and in the society we live in, without training for it, most likely we overwork, or we just break out of the system, and then we're actually no longer changing it. So I think that's another area which I would say it's a perspective that one brings after having studied at the Kaospilot, because it's a challenging program and you need it, and also because it's a program that asks you questions in areas that other programs don't ask you.
All right. Thank you. Thank you so much. And so we'll pass the ball to Sam. Do you wanna share a bit about that too?
Yeah. Can you ask the question again? Just
It was a bit like how is going through the Kaospilot journey has influenced, support you, you know, helped you figure out like a sense of direction, what you wanted to, you know, do beyond graduation.
Yeah, I was definitely drawn to the school because I met some of the people there I didn't know it existed before, just a year before, and I was very, very drawn to the people and the energy I felt there, because from my perspective, there was all these really cool strangers from all over the world that had chosen this, and there was a culture, as I understood it, as, yeah, we are here because we want to make the world better, and we're here because we have chosen this, and also because you pay for the education, which is in Denmark is free. So I know that it doesn't goes all over the world, but here in Denmark you normally get the education for free, and here people are actually paying for it, which made a foundation of, okay, so people actually choose this education. There's Why would you pay all this money and slack here? So I was drawn to the community that I felt there, and I think what it has done for me especially is a big part of that was the personal development aspect of it, which is, in my perspective, like a third of the education, and uh, more and more realize where your strengths are and what difficulties you have as an individual, as a person. Where do I need to be stronger? Where do I need to which aspect of my own person do I need to develop? And throughout the education, I actually came to the to the to the Kaospilot thinking, okay, I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to be like a business thing. Then I can make projects. Then I can make a company, and then I can because I didn't know what area that I wanted to work in or what I wanted to make better in the world. I just had an understanding of, okay, I will figure that out, and then I'm going to be able to execute it. And more and more I realized that, okay, maybe I'm actually not like an entrepreneur. Maybe I'm not the one who are gonna start a company and be this character that I thought I was going to be. But my ending project allowed me to work with immigrant youngsters in Aarhus, who criminal immigrant youngsters who, and building like a social space for them, a gym, a boxing gym for them. And in that, I realized, okay, this is actually my target group. This is actually the people I want to help. This is the situations I want to make better. So I realized throughout the 3 years that I actually just love working with people, and I want to. That's where my natural talents are, communicating and being in that space and talking with people, and especially young people and kids. So and now I have working with this target group for almost 5 years, or since the education. So no, 4 years. And so my journey through the Kaospilots was that I realized, okay, what in the world do I want to make better? And I realized education is because you want to, as Carmen said, you want to work with people. You want to learn and be better to work with people that are different, because it's fucking hard. As soon as you're more than two people, things are just more complicated because there's more perspectives. And I can feel now when I'm in the leadership position here and I have to work and guide a staff of 15, 20 people, that, yeah, okay, we have some conflicts here as well. And I suddenly realized in the staff meetings and so on, I actually have the tools, even though I can't remember any of the facilitation tools necessarily, but I can draw from the experiences I have. And I realized suddenly, okay, I actually do this naturally now. I try to set up a system or facilitate a meeting where we have a focus also, not just the work and the day to day, but actually how are we as a community here? And I can see it in the faces of my coworkers here that they are suddenly saying, oh yeah, like that's actually really nice that we can talk about this at a staff meeting as well. Like, how are we feeling about this place? And also, why are we here? Because if it's only for the money, we can we could work any other kind of job, but this job is really fucking difficult. And the success has to be found in the small details and the small connections with the kids and the development you see over the years, which is really slow. But it suddenly there, I realized that okay, I can be a part of connecting a meaningfulness to my work here. So yeah, that's I realized that now, and I realized that the Kaospilot education has helped me through that because of especially the self-development programs in it with my teammates, and yeah, trying to seek out why we do what we do. Yeah, I think that's as good an answer as I can get.
Thank you. Then I would like to ask you, and also because I know this is something that is very much in the back of my mind of the students I'm with right now, which is the third year, right? Like, how's it been for you, the transition from Kaospilot to let's go to workforce, or like being a professional? Because right, we're talking about an education which doesn't necessarily fit within the box of what is considered like something easily classifiable. Also in terms of like what are the skills and knowledge and experience that you're bringing to to the world. So a lot of the question that has emerged is like, how is that perceived when you go out, or what is like, how has it been your experience like from graduate, sorry, to professional, let's say, within quote words, whatever that means.
Yeah, like I think for me it was very fluent, because my third year project allowed me to get the experience, and I got connections there that I was actually offered to be a full-time employee at that social work space, but they couldn't. They didn't have the economical foundation to pay me a salary, but I had co-workers there who had been working at other places, and they could give me a what do you call that? They could refer me to their earlier work, former work spaces, so I could apply for a job there with youngsters as well. And so my third year project allowed me to seek work because I had the experience, and I had somebody who could back up the work I did. And so I did that for a year and a half. And after that experience, that allowed me to seek this, to apply for this job here in Greenland, which I realized was a thing. This was a place that I had no idea existed, an orphanage at the end of the world. And yeah, so it was actually very fluent. Yeah,
smooth.
From
Nice.
third year project allowed me to do another job, allowed me to be here, where now I'm in a leadership position, which I now realized. Yeah, okay, I actually want to also take a second education in leadership, or a diploma or something like that.
Great, cool, thank you. And shall we shift? I would like to hear also the same question from Carmen. Yeah, I'm trying to like pick starting points.
Perfect. It was actually something I was pretty concerned about, because as coming from Germany, it's not actually well-known education. So if you say you studied at Kaospilot, there's a tiny niche of process and alternative project management, agile geeks in Berlin and in some communities that know it, and that's it. But like the percentage is very little. It's not like in Scandinavia, if you apply at a big company, they have known and have already worked with people that are Kaospilots, but in Germany, basically no one knows. So I think what always calmed me, now I'm German, I'm not in Germany, is that I have a portfolio of projects that I can actually apply with. And I think that's actually that which makes it professionally most valuable for me. Because whether or not someone understands my practical abilities from the start, I still can show projects immediately from the start, and that kind of opens a lot of doors, because experience is something that everyone looks for, and for most companies it's actually really expensive to get students that have been just studying and not doing into the practical work dynamics in a way that doesn't uses up so much resources. So I think that's something that has always calmed me down. Now, I didn't expect I would end up in Mexico. I did not expect I would end up teaching so quickly. I think for me that was a new perspective, because I expected to do more design work, more actual facilitation work and practice. And now I'm teaching, which was in some ways a jump of roles that I didn't expect right now. I thought, maybe in 10 years I'm going to teach something, but not right now. And at the same time, I feel like the ways of connections is through network. So the way I got there is obviously through network. And all of my work is basically only through network. I have no website, I have no Instagram, I have no Facebook that I use, I have no newsletter that I do.
What?
I don't do any of the things I've learned at Kaospilot yet. That people pass on information, be like, oh, you have an issue with that, why don't you check out the work of Carmen? And it's possible that there's certain professional areas whose doors stay closed for me because of not having certain of these communication means. I wouldn't recommend anyone. I don't know if I would recommend someone to not have a website, but I think for me, as the work is often very personal, very specific, I generally get recommended with, oh, I know Carmen can do this job. And then people don't ask why. They trust the person that recommends. And then I get more positive reviews. So I think the idea of how I transitioned out of Kaospilot and then how I also move from freelance job to freelance job is actually like that. Be like, oh, I need a Carmen for this. So then you become your own brand. And I think that is actually something that the idea, it's something we always discussed critically in Kaospilot, whether that is, a capitalizing of identity. But yeah, there is something about that we find our own niche and what kind of work is helpful. And colleagues from before, former Kaospilots, I just got a reach out from a Kaospilot from Team 17 that is doing a project around mental health, and had a collaboration meeting with her psychiatrist collaborator in Mexico City, and asked me whether I wanted to facilitate. So in some ways, there's always somehow a little grid work that you can go through. And of course, you have to search for things. There's times you have to search, and there's times when they come to you. But I think that the idea of that there is that from the things you do, you have doors that you can reach out to, and you have practiced in how you do that. And you have an ability in how you create collaborations. And I think Kaospilots have an ability to, like, I think what Søren has been sharing, that he started to be a social worker, and now, I don't know, after this short amount of time, he's in the position he's in. Ellen is positioned beautifully in her organization. So I feel like if we don't start our own project, but we start in an organization, pretty quickly people recognize that there's abilities there that actually are very primed for being in leadership positions. So I think if I now had started in a company, if I would choose that as a fixed job, it's probable as a Kaospilot that there opens up possibilities to more quickly get into management positions or leadership positions, because that's actually what we're trained for. And that is actually practical abilities that you see in our day-to-day work, and people actually can recognize it when they work with you. I never answer your question as you asked them, but that was my response.
But it's okay. It's okay. And maybe we can hear very quick. And I'll just say, if anybody has any questions, just like type them in, and I'll make sure to ask them. And maybe Ellen, you can also share a little bit around your transition from KP to where you're at right now.
I think I just need to double tap on what Carmen just said. Like, it's this question of like what profession or like what kind of box can I fit into, to not forget that this is a leadership school. It's so very easily forgotten, or even I forgot about that. Like, so and it's also in a position where I am at right now. I'm a leader of a big organization. I'm also a manager in some sense, and it's the difference between that, and that's what you get to practice a lot. And I also think like this gap of yeah, Carmen also said, like, I came to the school through my network, and that's also how you leave the school. And it's basically it's about network and what you get really good at the Kaospilot without knowing. Maybe it's not even intentional, but it's about relationships and building relationships, and you learn a lot about communication. And that's also what's gonna take you somewhere after, those abilities, because you get to become a very social being. Because you also realize that the relationship is actually the key to transform situations, groups, one-to-one calls, any situations. I think I have, in my position right now, I'm also I'm a representative of this organization. I need to talk to a lot of stakeholders. And you know, when someone said, like, could you be a salesperson? And I would be like, that would be my worst thing to do, and I don't see myself as that. And then I get a lot of feedback, you're a really good salesperson. And I don't even know what that means, but it's basically about relationships. Like, how do you get profound, trustworthy relationships, the ability to be trusted, the ability to have the grit to actually deliver on what you say. It's basically about that. So you can tap into a lot of different professions, but yeah, network.
Great. Thank you. And Kai, I don't know if you want to add something to that, or
Yeah,
another
sure.
question.
Network is great,
Yeah.
and I think triple tapping on that really quickly. I think one of the former team leads at the Kaospilot, Pete, shout out to Pete, said that what you pay for to go to the school, as Søren mentioned, you pay to go to the school, is to enter this network of amazing people that you can draw upon for the rest of your life. And that is truly what I'm feeling that I paid for after graduating. And both in terms of the people who are Kaospilots and who know Kaospilots and who have been working with Kaospilots, it's also a practice in socializing. I think that's what I'm taking with me, because we live in a society, we live in a world where to create any change, you need to be able to collaborate, and network is key to everything change. So that's what this education is also about.
Amazing. Thank you so much. I'm gonna, there's a bunch of questions that are, I'm gonna bundle them all up in one and paraphrase. I hope it's okay for the people to ask. But I would say that in like an increasingly complex world that moves quite quickly, how has your experience, like going through the Kaospilot education, allowed you to adapt to these changes and continue growing or continuing, finding ways of moving forward? If you can just like speak a tiny bit into that, if it makes sense. And I would say whomever, I don't want to pick anymore. Whomever wants to start, starts.
Can you ask the question? Can you say it
So
one more time, please?
let's say in a word that like continuously increase in terms of complexity and need of adaptability on our side. Like most of the time, like we find ourselves like this, if you might call it like classic education, right? Most of the knowledge that you acquire becomes obsolete by the time you graduate. Well, maybe part of the skills, practice, knowledge, mindset that you acquired through Kaospilot has helped you to continuously grow and adapt beyond the school years, quote unquote.
I have one answer that could be as Carmen said, that throughout the 3 years at the Kaospilot, you will be in bigger and smaller projects, and at the end you will definitely have 3 major projects, 4 that you have been a part of, and as Kai said, if you get what you put into it, so if you have put your heart and soul and you have tried and failed and tried again, you throughout these projects you will learn to make a goddamn list, map out your problem, map out your how you work, how your meetings are going to go. You're going to be able to practice all these tools that is necessary for having for executing a difficult project or workplace, or so there's a lot of management skills that you will learn and that you will need afterwards, because nobody can have everything in its head. So very simple tools for organizing the problem and solutions along the way.
Cool. Just please feel free to go. We got 8 minutes left. So if you want to add something.
I can. I think the idea of working process-based means to not, I remember the metaphor of if you do a process, it's not like you throw a stone, you throw it and it lands where you want, but it's like you throw a dove, it starts flying and then it goes somewhere. And I guess in some ways that's a better metaphor for the world than the stone, but most of our educations are actually built for stones and not for living beings. So I think to be trained in working with this idea of that, yes, you have to comply with deadlines, but in some ways you're working with living things that are uncertain and unpredictable, I think helps you afterwards, and actually is what I would say makes Kaospilot still relevant. Because if we would look at the practical tools of Kaospilot, it's not that which keeps Kaospilot relevant. It is the mindset that makes that. And also, I think Kaospilot is more training than a theoretical teaching place. I think it's always a little bit confusing to call it a university, though it is a university, because it's really not like you lecture, you read books and sit in corners and study in libraries, right? You do, and you train and you practice, and that keeps, and whatever you have trained, no one takes that of you. Whether or not it's still relevant doesn't really matter. Even if you learn something unwell, as long as it's integrated in your doing, I think it's something that will accompany you further. So it's practice.
Amazing. Thank you. Ellen, Kai, do you want to add something too?
Yeah, I can give it a short
All right.
comment. No, I would say that I think you're in the first place, like if you choose to enter the Kaospilot, you're a curious, investigating person. And that is something that really is encouraged at the Kaospilot, and even new thinking models of how to do that even further. And like Carmen said, it's a very practical school, but it also poses a lot of questions and a lot of thinking about thinking, and coming yet again to this communication part. And then you actually get to practice how to put your thinking into words that is understandable for another person. I think the more I am working, the more situation I'm in, and you, Carmen, also said this group work, it's so difficult, and it doesn't, like, you practice it a lot at the Kaospilot. I left the Kaospilot and I realized it's really difficult because it requires attention all the time, and there's new scenarios all the time. And when you've been at the Kaospilot, you also have this different perspectives. So you complicate things a lot. At least I do. And so it really challenged me still a lot. And I think it's thanks to all the good questions I have been trained to ask myself and even my surroundings. So in that case, I think the learning aspect is still very present. And also this thing about, the field of education right now, and looking into how fast this world is moving forward, like going into a digital virtual space. It is chaos, and it's really heavy to navigate in that. It drains a lot of energy. And looking at this world that it is right now, there's so much complexity, and I think the Kaospilot has really what you need then is like a good self-understanding, a good relationship with self. And I really think the Kaospilot helped me to be more profound and grounded in that, because this world is going to ask you a lot of questions, and then you need to have a good so don't worry about the extension of the learning afterwards. It's gonna come to you whether you like it or not.
Amazing. Kai, would you like to?
Yeah, I think I'm gonna add a perspective of the training of empathy into this. So empathy for others, and for sort of situations, actors, whatever you want to call them. But I think, yeah, the capability of yeah, I think seeing the situations from other perspectives, so understanding why others do what they do, and in the end, that manifests in, of course, better collaborations or better results or better teams and all that. But I think in the end, it comes down to that skill of empathy that you train throughout the education, through the various projects that you do, through the parties that you throw together. That's also a practice in empathy. For me, that's been that's been like profoundly changing how I see other people and how my relation to other people is, I think. Yeah.
Nice. Very nice. Thank you so much. Time has gone much faster than I would have liked it to go. But before we leave, then I would love to ask you if you can do like a 3-word checkout. What would you give as an advice, a suggestion, a curious question to the people who are thinking of applying to KP this year? And I'll do it. We'll start with Kai, and then we'll go counterclockwise.
3-word checkout
Three,
on people who
three-word
are
checkout.
considering applying.
Yes.
Don't do it. Oh no. Please do
Let's
it.
do. No, well, there's apostrophe.
I haven't done this for a long time.
Uh-huh.
hmm. Yeah. Oh, you want people.
Nice.
It's not about knowing, it's about wanting to search.
Wait, that's 7.
Thank you for that. I can count.
Hacking the system as well. It's okay to not know all the knowns.
Amazing. Wow. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for all the people that have been watching this. I'm sorry, there's a bunch of questions we didn't get to. Next time we'll do it 2 hours. Have a wonderful day. This stream is going to be available in the group they stream in and on YouTube and LinkedIn. And I will post when the next one is going to be. And thank you. Thank you to you all for being part of this. It's been fantastic. And now I'm going to stop it. Oh, and one thing actually that I want to say that I've been, if you're curious about more alumni's profile on the website, there's a section with a lot of bio pics around them. But I'll post the link in the description, and I'm gonna stop it now.